How many of you are familiar with 21 Pilots, the band? Okay, so some of you are kind of familiar. Maybe yes, maybe no. Okay. So I'm going to show you this video. First, I don't want you to say anything in terms of like your opinion about the song, what you think the message is about, nothing like that. I want to extend this song and video to everybody that it is either new to or has never looked at it from a kind of perspective. Okay? So I'm going to play this, and I just want you to watch, and I want you to take it in. The general gist that I will give you, it's called car radio, and all I'm going to tell you is somebody stole his car radio. Okay? Moving right along. I'm going to keep the subs on so you can see.
I ponder of something great. My lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire, my time today. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought. Cause somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence. Sometimes quiet is violent. I find it hard to hide it. My pride is no longer inside. It's on my sleeve, my skin will scream, reminding me of who I killed inside my dream. I hate this car that I'm driving. There's no hiding for me. I'm forced to deal with what I feel. There is no distraction to mask what is real. I could pull the steering wheel. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought. Cause somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence. Ponder of something terrifying, cause this time there's no sound to hide behind. I find over the course of our human existence, one thing consists of consistence, and it's that we're all battling fear. Oh dear, I don't know if we know why we're here. Oh my, too deep, please stop thinking. I liked it better when my car had sound. There are things we can do, but from the things that work there are only two, and from the two that we choose to do, peace will win and fear will lose. There's faith and there's sleep. We need to pick one, please, because faith is to be awake, and to be awake is for us to think, and for us to think is to be alive. And I will try with every rhyme to come across like I am dying to let you know you need to try to think. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought. Cause somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence.
Now we're halfway through the song. Do you feel like the song is about someone stealing his car radio? What sticks out to you? It's the silence. Okay, so what about the silence though, right? So it's definitely not about the car. It's definitely not about his radio. Oh, the silence is deafening. He's alone with his thoughts. He hates the silence. Someone possibly hijacked his emotions, his brain, his head, and now he's stuck in a deafening whirlwind. The silence is too heavy for him, makes his thoughts run. Okay, so now keeping that in mind, I want you to watch the rest of the video and see how this plays out. See if you can spot what I interpret to be a bit of a message.
binder of something great. My lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire, my time today. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought. Cause somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence.
Now, to be clear, as Bratley tries to get in on the action here, to be clear, this is not a reaction, okay? This is me sharing something with you, something that I think is important for some of you that might need to hear this. And even if I'm wrong in my interpretation, I do think that there is a potential visual message that is good for some people to hear at the right time, okay? Here's one of the ways that I interpret this. First of all, the way that you all broke down the first half of the video, I think is spot on. It has nothing to do with the car radio. The car radio just presents a distraction from your own thoughts or from Tyler's thoughts. So then it becomes the simple catalyst of the car radio's gone, which means the music is gone, which means the distractions are gone, and now I'm kind of left sitting in my own thoughts. And then from there, it's kind of who knows where I go, right? So I think that the way you all broke that down was spot on. Now, the way that I choose to interpret this last half, I will wholeheartedly admit I am probably nowhere near what Tyler and Josh intended for this video. Probably not. But as you know, I believe in death of the author. Once it's out there, it's up to whoever receives it and how they receive it. I'm going to give you my theory, my interpretation, which honestly is really for me, but it might also resonate with some of you. We see Tyler here. He shaves his head. He puts on his mask. Now, how many of you think that you put on a proverbial or some type of metaphorical mask when you are either with other people or you're out in public, you're on a phone call, a video chat, some type of way you put on a mask? Okay, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? It can be, like, it just depends on how you use it. But I think that for the most part, we can all understand this is a thing. We put on some form of a mask, okay? Moving right along. Now, let's look at why we think he's putting this mask on. Where was he just now? Do you remember when he was shaving his head? I think I just gave it away. He was in the bathroom. He was by himself. Before he left the bathroom, he put on his mask. And now, where's he going? You see the scene change now, right? You see where he is. This could potentially be why he needs the mask, okay? But there's something interesting about this crowd right now, because you can see this is a concert venue. He is on the stage. He just came from most likely the green room. What's up with the crowd? Now, you see blurry faces, like that's actually a 21 Pilots reference, but it's probably blurry now because I paused it incorrectly. They are silent and they are still good. Now you see Tyler with his mask, he walks right into the middle of the crowd. This is called facing things head on. Now, when this crowd comes to, do you think as a celebrity that he could possibly be in some danger, right? right, so now he's out of the melee. He's back on to let's just say he's currently feeling better. He's safer. He put himself in the middle of the madness. He put himself in there. He went head to head with a huge fear. Okay? When that fear enveloped him and that chaos completely took him in and he had to fight to get out, now he's here and watch what he can do.
And now I just sit in silence. And now I just sit. And now I just sit in silence. And now I just sit in silence.
Now you notice he calls the madness now. He can control it. He has faced the depths of it. He's climbed out of it. And now he has the power to say, you can control me, you can't control me. I'm going to make that call.
And now I just sit in silence. And now I just sit.
And once you do that, you will eventually have the wherewithal, the ability, ideally in a perfect world, to feel like you can face that type of darkness. You can get your voice back, as Kala says, without the mask.
I ponder of something great. My lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire, my time today. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought. Cause somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence.
Now, just so you don't misunderstand the ending of that video, he's literally just on the stage and is about 3 feet under him, right? It's not the top of a building, right? It's just about 3 feet and there's a giant foam mat.
Somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence.
That's it. Okay. Now, Zesty, whose 37th birthday was yesterday, says, without the mask. Well, I'm still working on that. Zesty, buddy, most of us are. That's the truth. Most of us are. And I think you kind of have to also understand that just because, like, if I were to act the way that I do with you guys at a business meeting, I can't really do that. It's not a great idea, right? So one could say, well, I put on my business mask. I go to my meeting, with my pipe and my ascot. Okay. But then when I leave and I hang out with you guys, well, the mask comes off. But guess what, folks? Here's the brutal truth. As authentic and as honest as I am with you, there is still a mask here. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're always going to exist in some form or capacity with some type of mask that kind of fits that situation. I think that's kind of the thing, right? And I think that's okay. It's not a bad thing. But I think us believing that if we can't be our 100% open selves with everybody around us, they don't accept us. That's not the case. That's not reality. It's just not. I mean, again, I'm saying this really confidently from my perspective, okay? But we really all are very complicated, complex individuals. And part of that masking process is us choosing who we are going to let in past which mask, if that makes sense. Right? So it's not necessarily, sometimes it is a way of armoring ourselves. It's a way of protecting ourselves from the world. So that mask could wholeheartedly be a persona that we put on, that if people reject that persona, we feel fine because they didn't really reject me. They rejected the facade that I was putting up. It's kind of one of the ways that I think a lot of us go through most of our lives with this persona, right? We put these walls up. We're very guarded. But with all of this, one thing that I think is important, at least at some point for you to hear. Some of you might not be ready to hear this. Some of you don't need to hear this. And some of you might get something out of it. And I've said this before. You have a lot more control over your life and how you feel about your life than you think you do. That's true. I want you to hear that. Now, some of you have tough situations. Some of you have terrible situations. Some of you have conflicts that really, there's nothing about it that you can control. And some of you have conflicts that are internal. The ways that you struggle with yourself, the way that you struggle with how you feel about yourself, or something that you did X number of days, weeks, months, or years ago. But folks, I am here to tell you, with all of us sitting here right now, I'm not even going to tell you. I'm going to ask you. How many of you, at some point in your life, regardless of your age, regardless of which country and which language you speak, how many of you have been through the struggle? Like, you have seen the darkness. You've seen rock bottom almost. Go ahead. Just say yes, say me. You don't have to get into details. Go ahead. Just throw them up there. Throw up a hand. Now, for those of you that are going through it now, look at the chat. You see that? You see how many people go through this stuff? Yeah. And you're in it. I get it. And unfortunately, that is part of life, right? It really is part of life. And that you're not alone. Zesty is absolutely, you're not alone. It's hard to see our situation sometimes as anything but our entire world, right? You think, well, this is the way it is. I don't know how to escape it. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to deal with it. So if that's the case, I'm always going to be stuck in it. But that's not really true. Sometimes just knowing that other people have walked where you have walked and have gone through what you are currently going through is enough for you to be like, okay. And that's just one step closer to kind of pushing through something, right? You have a lot more control than I think you realize. And I know for a fact, out of the 200 of you here, there's a good chunk of you that need to hear that. You need to be reminded of that. You have a lot more control than you think you do. Yeah, life is an ocean. It ebbs and it flows. Sometimes it swallows us whole. Sometimes we find a floating mattress and do mattresses float? Let's say yes. We find a giant inflatable air mattress with no holes, and we just float along the top. But once we get there, do we assume that, like, okay, everything's fine, I found my air mattress and there's no holes, right? I guess I'm good forever. No, because then guess what's going to happen? Once you get comfortable, oh man, here comes some clouds. Here we go. Buckle up, everybody. Oh, sorry, Jack, there's not enough room on this door. Rose, move your big ass over and make room for Leo. Sorry. Titanic still gets me, and I was 16 when I saw it. The point being, yeah, maybe it's rain. Maybe it's sharks, right? Things are going to happen. And if there's anything that I can tell you from my 28 years on this planet, ideally you will come to a point where, and it's not always the case, it's not a perfect solution. It doesn't always work. But if the majority of your time you realize and understand that you can not necessarily let life happen to you, but that you can actually set parameters, you can set boundaries, right? Some of you are just as guilty as I have been, or vice versa. I've been just as guilty as some of you, where my whole life was taking care of everybody else. Everybody else. Now, I would like to tell you that the reason that I did that was because I'm a good person and I want to help people. And yes, that's true. But looking back when I was younger, the reason I wanted to do it was because it validated my existence. That's not healthy. If you want to help people for helping them and because they need it, well, that's one thing. But for me, it was a hell of a crushing blow when I realized one day that the only reason I was doing that stuff, not the only reason, but a big reason, was because it made me feel valuable to those people. And if they believed that I was valuable and worthy, then I would believe that I was valuable and worthy. You see what I'm saying? Once you kind of break that mechanism wide open and you throw all of that internal emotional shit on the table and you are forced to face it head on, that is when you can start rebuilding yourself. All the masks and facades and the things that you tell yourself, sometimes your brain is your worst enemy. Because there's a piece of your brain that will remember some really, really bad stuff that somebody said to you when you were 10, 15, or a bad experience that you had. Your brain can toy with you sometimes in a really bad way. But sometimes it's literally as easy as, nope, I'm not buying it. It's not always the case, but sometimes it is. And sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. And you've got to tell your brain to STF you, you're going to do what you want. Nope, you know what? I have been sad for 5 friggin' days. I'm not doing it again. I'm going out and getting some damn ice cream, getting some pizza, and I'm going to play Colonel Sanders Dating Simulator. Finger licking good dating simulator. Yep, I'm going to spend my whole day doing it, and nothing's going to stop me. You make that call. And then it becomes a little victory. Just one little victory you can add to your little pocket. And then you do it again. Another one. See what I'm saying? Yeah, bully your brain right back. And like Gwen says, baby steps. That's it, baby steps. And I will tell you, and Marina just kind of hit this nail on the head, you won't always be able to get those little victories. You won't. But you'll have another opportunity, and then you try again. And then you try again, and then you get one. I mean, I can remember a very defining moment in my life specifically where I had no choice but to just drive on. Now, the truth was, I had the other choice. It's not like a dark story or anything. I'm not even going to tell the story, but the point was, like, I had a fork in the road in my life where I said, if I just keep quitting and giving up like I always do, that will become Roscoe. That'll just be me forever. At some point, I need to just face this head on, like the video that we just watched. You force yourself in the middle of it, and you face it. Now, a lot of you are asking, well, how do I do that? How do I face it? For some of you, that could be talking to someone, talking to a professional someone, a therapist, a counselor, somebody that can listen to you with X number of years of schooling and help you sort all that shit that's on the table out. That person is not just paid to listen, they're paid to help you figure out all of the things that you cannot figure out on your own. I have gone through therapy multiple times, and I can tell you that it works. Sometimes you have to go through 2 or 3 of them to find one that fits for you, but it works. And I know there is a stigma attached to, well, if I tell everybody I have a therapist, well, they'll think I'm crazy. Bullshit. And you know what? Even if they do, who gives a shit? This is your life. It is too short for you to worry about what other people are thinking when you absolutely have the power to take control of your own situation. That's it. There's no excuse. You do what you have to do to make this life your own. Now, it's easy for me to sit and say this because, quite frankly, right now, I'm in an okay position. But I know damn well 2 weeks from now, I could be at rock bottom again. So does this make me a hypocrite for sitting here and telling you these things? No, because if anything, the way I see it, when I'm up, I need to help other people be up. Because then when I'm down, the people that are up will help me come up. And that's kind of how community works. We have to look out for each other. And honestly, whether that's if you find people in the Discord, for example, that you can chat with, that's great. If you find people that have kind of similar stories and similar struggles and you can share, great. But don't be afraid if you're really struggling, and I know some of you are. Don't be afraid to pull up that Google machine and type in therapists in your area. Make an appointment and talk to somebody. I'll tell you, one of the hardest things that I had to do, and I'm glad I did it. When I used to teach, and I would teach military, I would stand up in front of those students who were all these big blah, 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 blah guys. And I had all my fellow instructors in the back of the classroom. And I would be teaching about mindset, what it means to take control of your brain in very difficult situations. It's one thing to have a good, strong mind on a daily basis in everyday life. It's another thing to have a strong mind when the next moment could be your last and you have to make certain decisions. It's a different game. So when I get up there and I start teaching this class, one of the first things that I would say to get all of these big tough guys' attention was, when all the noise stops, all the guns stop firing and all the explosions stop and all the chaos stops, it's going to be even noisier. You need to know that. And I'm going to stand up here and I'm going to tell you, you need to go talk to someone. And I don't give a shit what the guy to your left or your right says. I don't care what names they call you. I know there's a stigma. It doesn't matter. But if you don't handle your business, you're going to be just as dangerous, potentially, than all the people that we're trying to protect our loved ones from. That's the truth. You do what you have to do to take care of yourself and to take care of your family. And then I said this. I know you look at us as instructors like we're all these big tough guys, bravado, blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit. All of it. There's nothing different between me and you, because at the end of the day, I want to go home to see my family. And whatever it's going to take to do that, I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to be so insecure that other people's words are going to stop me from doing that. Now, without getting on too much of a sidebar, that was the perfect opportunity for me to tell them 22. And they would look at me cross-eyed. And I would repeat it, 22. We lose 22 veterans every single day. People that choose to unsubscribe. 22 every single day. Now, why do I tell you all this? Does this mentality really translate to you? In some ways it does. Because the context of what brings someone to a therapist is irrelevant. The gist is very, very similar, and it's very simple. If you need help, you get it. Period. You find a way to get it. You find a way to make your life your own. Now, sometimes that's medication. Sometimes it's counseling. Sometimes it's decisions. And sometimes it's a variable of all those things. But the unfortunate truth and the difficult truth that a lot of us take a long time to realize and then apply is that nobody can do it for you. It has to be you. I had to take control of my own life. The FERT had to do the same thing. I can support her, and I can cheer her on, and I can help her in any way. But at the end of the day, she's the one that makes the decision to do what she needs to do to take her life back. Just like I had to do. And just like a lot of you will do. Just like a lot of you have done already. And the proof of that is, you're here. You're still here. And that makes me happy.